Perfect. And if you don't necessarily want to show up on the recording, that's okay too. Just chat any questions or comments that you have, and we can make sure that we read them out so that you still can be a part of the conversation. So, all right, next slide. Thank you. So we want to take a moment before we jump in this morning to acknowledge the spaces that we all are occupying. And particularly here in this greater, Western coastal Washington area, we acknowledge that we occupy the ancestral lands of the Coast Salish peoples, in particular the Tulalip, Snohomish, Stillaguamish, and Soxhawtl tribes. We see you, respect your right to sovereignty and self-determination, and are committed to being better listeners, learners, and in lifting Indigenous voices. We invite you all to join us in holding us accountable to that, and then also stepping into that work as well. Next slide. Thank you.
Okay, welcome back, everyone. It's great to see you all. And we got a lot of ground to cover. I mean, we keep saying that, so. But we do want to kick off the day with, we know we gave you some time and some things to think about last time. As we parted ways, we wanted to give you some time to think about what we've done in the past, and also what you would like to track for yourselves to know that you're working in the right direction. And then we also sent out a nice list of resources that we will definitely talk through more today. So if you didn't get a chance to look through all of that, don't worry, we will have some time for a catch up and make sure we all have some time to look at those things. But before we get to that list, are there any reflections from our last conversation that anyone would like to share? You can unmute and.
Amanda, I was not in the first meeting.
Okay.
Do you think it's useful for me to be in this meeting? I didn't realize I missed one.
No worries. It's okay. You'll get all caught up. It's just if you had any thoughts from last time. We definitely want you here, Rosemary. Okay.
I will.
Oh, I see a hand. Ashley.
Oh, go for it, Ashley.
This is Ashley Bryson. I use the pronoun she, her, and I'm with NCCC. We closed our conversation last time with a question about how we see ourselves in this work, and I didn't respond at the time. It was kind of at the end of the meeting, but I really do feel that that I see myself in the work of this collaborative. I think that the focus, even as we look at shifting priorities, the focus is always on helping the families that live in our community to thrive and to live just the best lives that they can. And I feel like that's something that we're all committed to. And so I just wanted to say that I do feel that this work is important, and I see myself as being part of it all the time. So I just wanted to say that.
Thanks, Ashley. Yeah, that's great. Appreciate you sharing. Also, if you click the raise hand, it pops your icon up so we can see you really easily. So it's a helpful feature.
Amanda, I was just gonna remind folks just of the framing that we used last time around the kind of idea of like form and freedom. And as we go through today, you'll see the word non-negotiable, which sounds really like intense. But the way we kind of framed that last time is that this is the form that we're providing, kind of like in jazz music, where you have a set of rules that then enables you to improvise and create all kinds of beautiful new music. And so that's really kind of what we're trying to figure out today, is around the form piece. But we're still very excited about the freedom that it gives and want to hold that too. So That's all. Just wanted to remind you
No,
of
absolutely.
that
That's a
prior
great,
conversation.
great reminder.
Mhm.
Yeah, so thinking about that form and freedom framework of, or way of thinking, we are going to this week or today we're going to touch on the first three, what we're calling what are the non-negotiables, which are systems change, families and caregivers of all ages with young children, and collective impact collaboration. And as we shared in our last meeting, we want to be intentional about the tools we're using. So first, I want to clarify that the resource list we sent out to you is not exhaustive. It reflects the learning and research done over the past 3 years on our end, as well as in partnership with you all. And we know that we are continually learning and growing in these areas alongside you. So if there are tools and frameworks that you have come across and that would be purposeful in these different areas, we definitely want to include them. But we are not putting that on you to be responsible to come to this meeting with all the list of resources for each of these areas, because we know that, yeah, it's a growing and learning area for all of us. So we want to invite you into that. If there's things that are come to mind or different pieces that you would like to add to the conversation, please do so. But yeah, and then acknowledging that we are still learning and growing. When we were reflecting on the community engagement piece, we recognize that we are still in the research stage of this aspect, and we want to take some time before we choose a tool or framework to measure this, as it's something we're still in development of. And we don't want to rush into slapping on a new tool that we've just discovered, and really want to take time to process this together as we grow in the area of community engagement. So with that, that's why we're not, that's why on the resource list, there's only one resource that we have there right now. And that's why we're not going to like push forward and making a decision on that piece. Along with that, the final non-negotiable is our partnership with United Way of Snohomish County. So we want to be, that's an ongoing development, and we will touch more on that in our third meeting. But just to say, like, we're not wanting to limit ourselves to a tool or framework of how we have this relationship, and like having this conversation today is part of that, right? Like you guys being here, you all being here and participating and being in this with us is part of that healthy growing relationship. So just wanted to get kind of that out of the way. Where we expect to get today is to talk through our first three non-negotiables, and the format we're going to use is we're going to do small groups and break out with a Padlet and take time in those small groups to go through and look at each of those tools and be able to make comments on the things that we think are really strong about these tools, things that maybe we'd like to see improved about them, or maybe some areas they're missing. And then we will have time to read through each group's responses, and then we'll have a group share out. And then in that share out, we're going to ask for you to answer a poll that will say which, looking at what we have today, which of these tools would you feel comfortable like diving deeper in as we grow in this area of learning and measurement, and what ones would you feel comfortable like moving, keep going on. So that's the format for today. So it's not necessarily like this is it, we're defining things, because we know that this is a continually learning process, and we know that each of these tools has really strong aspects to it, but also might not fully fit what we're doing. So we want to be really honest about those things and go in with an open mind to that. So in the breakout rooms, we're going to ask that we have, we'll put the Padlet for everyone to be able to open it on their own screen, but we'll have maybe one person be a note taker for each group. And then if you want to designate someone for your group to share out at the end, that would also be helpful. So I believe that's it, I think. So kind of the rotation is if you start on one, move to two. If you start on two, move to three. 1, 2, 3, 1, and go through that way. And then do you want to name the breakout rooms with the numbers that we'll start on? Elise?
Yes.
Breakout, or just breakout room 1, breakout room 2, breakout room 3. I guess that works.
Yeah. Let's have so when you go into the Padlet, breakout room 1 can take number 1, which is systems change. Breakout room 2 can take number 2, which is the families with young children, and breakout room 3 can start on collective impact collaboration, which is number 3, and then we'll just cycle through.
Are there any questions before we jump in? I just spoke a lot. One thing I thought about with talking with Elise is that looking at these as like they're the language of how we talk about these areas, and not necessarily like we are confined to these being our measurements, but using them to be a shared language across our collaborative work. So yeah, that's it. All right, I think we're ready. Do you want to put the Padlet link in the chat before we do breakouts?
Yep. Let me snag that real quick. Too many windows open. Here is the link to the Padlet.
I can stop sharing.
And I am going to open up the breakout rooms. All right. Guess we'll wait for other people to come back too.
So Elise, is that your office or is that your home office?
It is my home office, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we've actually been moving into going to the office 1 day per week on Wednesdays, which has been really nice. Like I've missed the ability to like the first day I came in. So I'm a Broncos fan. I'm from Colorado originally. Grew up on football.
Oh, so you're feeling good.
Yeah, I mean, better.
You're feeling good after that win.
But there's someone else in our office who's like die-hard Seahawks fan, and she's like the sweetest person. You would not expect her to be a trash talker. But the first day that I came in to work, I like these are the things that I totally forgot about and missed for the last, 19 months. That she was like, "Oh, hey, did you watch the preseason game? Like your team is questionable." And I was like, "Yeah, but we still beat you." So I was like, I miss these back and forths,
That was hilarious.
I know.
I hadn't seen that setup for
I know
this whole time. So you came into the office.
I know. One time, I mean, I do also.
Elise brought it out.
One time she had I came into the office one morning after the Broncos had just had a terrible loss, and she had put up a giant Seahawks poster in my doorway. So I had to walk through it, and she was like, "Sucks for you." Okay.
That's my kind of people. Nice.
I know. I was like, "It's on." Anyways, these are the people that I love going into the office for. So. All right, welcome back, everyone. I think.
Oh yeah.
Is this everybody?
Yeah.
So, yeah, no worries, Krisha. I'm glad to have you join for what you have been able to be here for. So, that was very quick. But hopefully you all were able to at least go through some of the tools and just get some thoughts down. But let's just take a little bit of time. And Amanda, if you want to share, thank you, the PowerPoint again. we can just go through each of the three kind of like non-negotiable areas and just talk through, you know, any key takeaways. If someone from your group wants to mention like, oh, this is what we liked most or what we didn't like most. And then we'll have a poll at the end of each section to say, you know, we would like to pick this for consideration for moving forward. This isn't like this is what we commit to. This is like a soft decision, like Amanda mentioned at the beginning, like this is a soft decision to say like, this felt really good. Let's keep trying this on for size and figure out how it might need to be tailored to fit us well, or, you know, whatever it might be. So with that, the systems change pieces. We had the systems change triangle and creating some sort of hopefully simple tracking system for the different aspects of that, the different conditions. The Tamarack outcomes diary, which was more emergent, and the systems change valuation canvas, which was thick. What were any key takeaways from glancing at those things? Any come to mind? Shall I call in maybe group one? Do you have any thoughts? Or like Amanda as note taker, I think for group one, were there any particular? Ooh.
I couldn't find my unmute button from the other
I
side.
was like
I was
watching.
like searching.
Like you're looking for.
Sorry about that.
Good.
And then I scrolled through the whole PowerPoint. We got stuck on this a little bit. I think one of our key takeaways was that the triangle is really good, but also so broad, and like thinking of a way to make it reportable feels difficult. So I talked about how using any of these, like if we still had narrative aspects to it, but use one of these tools to guide that narrative would be kind of the thinking behind it. So we talk more about that. My group can also chime in.
Group two, I mean, I'm happy to to share for group two, but also don't want to speak over anybody. But yeah, we also talked about how kind of with like even the systems change triangle, which looks very simple, can get very detailed. And ultimately we want to pick something that's more simple, and like this work is complex enough. So let's try to make any evaluation tool or system that we use as simple as possible. But did talk about how the conditions, the like, yeah, 6 conditions within the systems change triangle, or however many there are helpful, a helpful framework for thinking about systems change. Yeah. Group 3, any particular thoughts?
Was that us and Molly?
Yes.
Okay, just making sure.
Thank you, Sarah.
I think that a lot, we had similar conversations around the systems change triangle. Like it's a really great tool, like for conceptualizing and planning, and kind of understanding. So I think several of us mentioned like it's been a helpful tool, but also ask the question of like, how do you also integrate like tracking and measurement into it? But across the board, it seemed like everyone has had some positive experiences and been like actively choosing to use it in some way. So that seemed like a positive.
Yeah. Great. Thanks.
Please feel free to add to that group.
All right. Well, and I'll make sure that we send out, I'll go ahead and put it in the chat right now so that everyone has it again, but the Padlet so that everyone can see the comments that were put in here, both for now and in the future as you're continuing to kind of reflect on these things. But let's go ahead and do a poll. And again, this is not a like we commit to this thing. This is a vote for this feels okay. Let's keep moving forward with this and figure out how to make it work for us. And yes, Ashley.
I just had a quick question. In our group, we were talking about the importance of a narrative in how we tell the story of the work that we're doing, but also, you know, that needs to be trackable. And Molly brought up this resource that I think may have been the outcomes diary. It had different fields.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to clarify on that because I hadn't seen it before and I don't know what it was called, but I liked it.
Great. Yeah, definitely. That is the outcomes diary was one that was like, you can put like what your action is or like what a partner is doing and then just kind of see what happens, like kind of the ripple effects of that, or like as more of an emergent tool, you can, it is a narrative of what is happening and what changes you're seeing.
So it wasn't this one. The fields were slightly larger, I think.
Oh,
Unless
the planning canvas, maybe.
maybe.
Thank you, Amanda, for driving.
I should have asked at the time what it was.
No
This
worries.
one. Yes. Yes.
Cool.
This is called the planning diary.
Yeah, the planning canvas.
Planning
I mean,
canvas.
Tamarack loves their diaries and canvases. They're all
Okay.
about like leaving space.
I like that.
Yeah,
Thank you.
cool.
I would
right,
say
well-
in general, our group did not have enough time to go through ones that were new. It was
Mhm.
easier to talk about ones that we'd used before. And so I'm at a spot where if you were asking me a poll question, it would be choosing between something I knew and something I hadn't thought about yet, which I might not be able to answer.
Yeah.
I don't know if how other groups were able to go through and whether they have a full view of what everything is.
Yeah. That's a fair point. Do folks feel prepared to take make a soft decision, or would you prefer to take some time between now and the next meeting and we can, figure out what will make it possible to come to a decision at our next meeting? Any thoughts?
I think that's a good way to frame it, is like, we've talked about 10 things this meeting. What 4 things, or what 3 to 5 things would you like to narrow in on next time, and just kind of maybe take a decision out of it and just say, what should we dig into the next time we meet?
Great. So move ahead with the polling, but think of it as more of a let's keep digging into this. Feel okay? Thumbs up from folks.
I wonder if, and again, it may have already been done and I missed it, so I apologize if I did. But it's helpful for me to understand what's the intention of this. As several collaboratives looking at these tools, what are we trying to do? And we just is it make it more simple, make it easy to use, make it practical, whatever it is. But it would be helpful to say, yes, this is what this is kind of the screen through which we're looking at these. So then we have a common goal we're moving towards when we look at it. And if that already exists, I'd love to know, and I apologize for not knowing that.
No apologies needed. I'll chime in and then Amanda and Molly feel free to add. But really the focus with this is to, as a group of the core collaboratives, so looking across core collaboratives, what are the overarching frameworks that we want to kind of use to shape the way that both we're approaching the work, but then we're measuring the work as well. So trying to come to a common understanding of like, you know, these are the principles that we all would like to use, or, you know, this is the framework, the triangle that we're all going to be talking about and, you know, basing our measurement off of. Just so that we're all kind of speaking the same language, and then we can also communicate that out to, you know, the broader external community to say like, hey, this is what the systems change work that our collaborative is doing is, and can have kind of a unified message around the work that we're doing, even as it differs from collaborative to collaborative, right? But that we all kind of understand together, like this is how we have this is our shared definition of these things and how it's driving our measurement, even if the measurements, you know, themselves are specific to the population that an area, you know, or a geography that is being served per collaborative. Does that answer your question, Melissa? Anything to add?
Yeah, I would just add that we all as a group and individually will need to show the work that we're doing and that it's worth it. You know, we need to do that to justify funding, to justify to our organizations to participate as a partner, to, you know, justify our work as a group and plan how to move forward. This is information that we all will need as we talk to each other, external audiences, funders. It will be a continual need for us to show what is happening in these areas. And so this is a time for us to decide how do we measure that? You know, what's going to be kind of our collective process for gathering that information and sharing it, so that, you know, we can all, like Elise said, speak the same language. You know, we can show, here's what we're doing as a collaborative of collaboratives.
Great. So I'm watching the time. We have about 10 more minutes. So Melissa, does that answer your question?
Somewhat. I don't think I articulated it very well, so I think we should move on.
Okay, no worries. If you think of a different way to articulate it, feel free to send it back our way. It's totally fine. Ashley, your hand is raised? Or was raised? You might just...
I'm sorry, I think I just forgot to take my hand down.
That's totally fine.
Sorry about that.
Great. All right, so let's go ahead and do a poll. We'll see how this works. To maybe pick which systems change measurement tool we might want to consider moving forward with. And it is, you can select multiple boxes, so you're not forced into just one. You can also decide to not vote. That is also an option. So I'm gonna go ahead and launch this. Hopefully you all see it. Cool. Looks like we're good. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and end the poll. Share results. Hopefully you all can see that. So nice, we've got a dead heat between systems change triangle tracking system and the systems change valuation canvas. So yeah, our team will do some work around reflecting on those before our next meeting and coming with some ideas for what next with that. Great. So the next area, stop, yeah. So around 2Gen, any quick thoughts, reflections from groups on either the using the Aspen domains or the Harvard 3 principles? Any quick reflections on that before we do a poll? Group 1, did you have any particular thoughts? You can say pass.
I think a lot of the groups they're defined around these domains from Aspen, but also liked the wording of the Harvard principles, but felt that there are aspects that they didn't have the means to meet within those principles, so it would be hard to use. I think I captured that okay.
Yeah, I think for group 2, we talked about how the domains are already so they're so foundational to how the collaborative has formed up to this point, that it's been a helpful way to explain to external folks, like, here's what our collaborative is and how we work, and what we're focused on. But that the Harvard 3 principles were a little more simplistic and allowed a little more space maybe for both kind of application in different types of initiatives, whether that was program or systems change. So could kind of see both sides in our group. Group 3, any main considerations?
Our conversation was around how the Aspen had really helped in partner formation, but the Harvard seems more closely aligned with maybe the future and jumping into systems change.
Interesting, yeah.
I totally agree with you, Molly, on that one. I think Harvard really speaks to what are we trying to do within the core collaborated, about reducing the stress and providing the support and affecting system change.
So it feels like one captures maybe the essence of where we want to go, where the other is more of a practical, like, here's how we built this. Yeah. All right, well, let's do a quick poll just to see where people fall on what you want to keep, use. Again, you can select multiples. We can figure out how to mash these things together, or we can decide to separate them. We can tailor whatever. Nice. Good, quick polling, everybody. Share results. So looks like everyone loves Harvard's 3 principles, and we've still got a few people who find Aspen really helpful. So yeah, we'll take this into account as we shape our conversation at the next meeting. Thank you for that. And then the final area around collective impact and collaboration. We only have 5 minutes left, so I'll just open it up to everybody. Thoughts on the Wilder survey, which has been used, although it's been a while for most collaboratives, the Tamarack collaboration spectrum, which is new, the collective impact 3-part guide, which was kind of that more simplified, here are questions around the 5 conditions of collective impact, and then the Strive Together theory of action, which everyone is familiar with from that very colorful document that extends over phases in time of collective impact work. So any burning thoughts that anyone wants to share with the group on this?
I think the main thought, our takeaway was about defining which relationship we're referencing when applying one of these. So filling out the Wilder survey, is it about the collaborative within itself or the collaborative with United Way? And making sure that's defined well.
Elise, I already forgot about what the Tamarack collaboration spectrum and the CIF3 look like.
Yeah, the collaboration spectrum, well, Amanda can show us. The collaboration spectrum was moving along, like there's a spectrum of collaboration, and in collective impact, we're trying to use that, like integrate that farthest right side of trust and shared turf. And so this is just a way of being able to kind of plot the collaborative and where we're at, and would be narrative. Well, both narrative, I suppose, and kind of quantitative. But that's the spectrum. And then, thank you, Amanda. This, the collective impact one takes these 5 conditions of collective impact. And then if you scroll down, I mean, it changes over time. It acknowledges that as far as what we're measuring, but then it has some very practical questions and measurement ideas per condition. And this is just a sampling of them. There are many more in that document. So it's really just, it kind of strips it all down to like, what is collective impact and are we doing it around these 5 particular conditions.
Cool, thanks.
Yeah, thanks for the question. All right, should we take a quick poll on these? We'll launch that. And Molly also just mentioned in the chat that there may be one more that Sylvia mentioned. So we can definitely try to find that and bring that to the next conversation too, just to make sure we're looking at all the options. Ooh. Kind of fun watching the results come in real time.
Yeah, there was a tool that Sylvia shared in her training last fall that people liked in the moment that I think it'd be helpful to pull out again.
All right, hopefully we got everybody. Share these. Maybe. Yeah, this one's also we're kind of split on the collaboration spectrum and the 3-part guide, and then finding some use in the Wilder survey as well. So great. All right. Well, thank you, everyone. Sorry, I know we're like coming right up on 11:30, so I'll wrap this part up, but really appreciate your willingness to sit together and look at these things. Stop sharing with us. Gosh, there we go. Yeah, so next steps, we'll have another meeting in December. Our team will kind of bring ideas on how this can fit together, and then we'll kind of touch on the last 2 non-negotiable areas that were on that document that we sent out, since they are, again, more of an area that we're currently growing in rather than we're ready to measure or have a full framework around.
We'll get a chance to look at all of these together. So like, what is a scenario where we use multiple of these, one for each area in reporting? And how do we make sure we don't get into a spot where the reporting is just so burdensome because we've picked a lot of things in individual choices, but it's actually all, too much together. Sorry, Amanda, did I cut you off? Were you going to close this out? Okay. No. All right. Well, we will try to get you something over email before we meet again so that we can do the same kind of thing where you can see our thoughts ahead of time, have something to react to, and then we'll discuss more next time we get together. Thank you all. It's good to see you.
Yeah, thank you all. Have a good afternoon.